Welcome back, beautiful souls, to another season of Find Your Lady Tribe. My name is Brenda Ridgely, your host. You know, there's a certain kind of magic that happens when women of a certain age come together. We've weathered some storms, discovered our strengths, and are ready to tap into the wisdom we've accumulated to create our next big thing. This season, we're diving deep into the wellspring of longevity. We'll explore how to nurture our minds, bodies, and spirits so we can not only live longer, but live vibrantly. Whether you're dreaming of traveling, starting a creative pursuit, building an empire, or even saving the world. Yep, that's right, saving the world. This season is your guide to building the foundation for a life filled with purpose, joy, and an unstoppable sense of self. So grab your cup of tea, settle in, and get ready to be inspired. But before we get started, I want to remind you to subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the show, and share it with your fellow midlife goddesses. Together, let's create a wave of empowered women who are redefining what it means to age gracefully, powerfully, and with a whole lot of Lady Tribe spirit. Hey everybody, welcome to Find Your Lady Tribe. My name is Brenda Ridgely and I am your host, and I'm so excited today. This whole season has been all about longevity, how to live our best lives and how to extend those lives for as long as we choose to, right? I'm super excited to have Melissa Rohlfs on with me today. We're gonna have a great conversation. She is a certified health coach and life coach, helping busy moms and teen girls find freedom from the struggle with food. Can anyone relate? She wants to help them be at peace with their food, their bodies, their lives, and she's committed to empowering women to break free from dieting. Oh my gosh, please. I'm still working on that after 50 some years. Emotional eating, self-image issues, all those things. She wants them to be able to ditch the diet mentality and feel empowered in their own skin. So I'm going to let her share her own story, but Melissa, I'm so happy you're here today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Brenda. I'm excited to share and be here with you.
Awesome. Well, tell us all a little bit more about you and why you do what you do, a little bit about your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a wife, I'm a mom. I've got teenagers right now. That's the stage of life I'm in. But as you said, I'm a holistic health and life coach. And the reason I do what I do around the food freedom piece is because of my own journey, my own struggle. Started when I was a little girl. I was 8 and had a lot of trauma and just things going on in the house, didn't know how to handle. So food became my coping mechanism, carried into life. Food made me feel good. It made me feel better. And so as a result, I associated food with weight. So then when I wanted to lose weight, I did diet after diet after diet, never worked, didn't do anything for me. And so it was really through holistic healing and really learning about the why behind the why in my own behavior and why I turned to food, working through that I found freedom. So that's a little bit of my story. Feel free to ask anything else because it was real quick.
Yeah, no, well, I don't think as lonely of a journey that is, I don't think we're ever alone in it. Because it's not something you go up and brag about. Hey, I have problems with food. I have an addiction, whatever that is for you. For me personally, I've definitely got an on or off diet mentality, and always trying to figure it out, tweak it. What is it? Why do you think it is such a I hate using words like struggle, because I really love the journey of life and all that. And there's everything that we encounter is here for us. It's for us, not happening to us. So what do you think, especially for women? Any insight on this in all of your research and learning about it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to it. I think, part of it goes back to the way that we were raised. Like I look back at my mom and, she was a single parent. So she did the very best she could, but I think food was her go-to. So that was modeled for me. So that became my go-to. But then I also saw her going to aerobic classes and doing the grapefruit diet and doing slim fast and all these things. So I think there's part of it is how you grow up. I think part of it is your relationship with food. Think about it if you have kids and they were younger and you're like, oh, one more bite, their mouth is closed. They're telling you they're full, but we're like, one more bite, like we don't know how to listen to our bodies. And so I think that's another piece is we don't know how to listen to our bodies. I think the other piece is cultural, societal norms. food is legal, it's socially acceptable, sugar's thrown at parades freely. Like, I think there's a lot of different things here that we don't look at. We don't look at that whole picture. We just look at the food piece and think we need to withhold, we need to restrict, but we haven't looked at the other pieces that affect it as well.
Right. And also it truly is a comfort. I
Mhm.
mean, to many of us, until you get to the point where you're going, oh, not comfortable anymore, right? And it should be okay to have enough to be comfortable, but anyway, it's a real tricky. There's no, there's no, I'm a black and white kind of person as far as just either I'm on or off or go all in, all out type of thing. And I don't like a lot of rules. So those gray areas really can be cumbersome for me.
Totally. And
And
I
I know a
think,
lot of women probably.
yeah. And I think the hard thing with food is that we need it to survive. So it's not black or white, right? Like, it's not like, oh, this is illegal, I shouldn't have this. It's going to have like big ramifications. Like, it's more of a gray area. And I think that's what makes it tricky is we need it to survive.
Right. And all the social things. I mean, I
Mhm.
remember going to my grandparents' house in Iowa. We'd
Okay.
visit a couple times a year. We lived here in Colorado. And literally, I just remember we would get up, have breakfast, clean up breakfast, and then be starting to plan lunch.
Lunch.
And I was like, it was a little different from what I was used to in Colorado at home because we were more like bowl of cereal, easier stuff. But we would do that and then we would have lunch and then we would clean up lunch and start dinner.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is right. This is just what else is there in life, right? So, but anyway, the social thing behind it also, it is totally socially acceptable to eat and encouraged. So
Totally.
so anyway, help us, Melissa. What do you got for us?
Well, there's so much, right? So hopefully, like, this conversation is just like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Because, like, for so many years, Brenda, it was like food is only related to weight. That was all I thought that it was about. But then through my own journey, and I'm like, no, it's about longevity. It's about immune system. It's about brain health. It's about energy. Like, there is so much more to food than just the weight piece. And I think we kind of do ourselves a disservice by just focusing on the weight piece. So I think just this conversation is a great starting point because there might be things people haven't considered, they haven't heard, maybe they haven't even thought of.
Right, right. So as far as helping someone who has, they've identified they have a problem. My name is Brenda, I have a problem. Where do you start?
Yeah, I think a great place to start is getting curious. I love to tell people to replace judgment with curiosity because we might be aware that we have a problem. Like, for me, that was eating all of the Oreos in the closet by myself and then shaming and guilting and judging and all of this kind of shame spiral that I would go into rather than saying, okay, why did I eat the Oreos? What was I looking for? Was I physically hungry? Or was I looking for something else? So I think if we can take out the judgment piece and replace it with curiosity, that can be really powerful. So we've got the awareness with our conversation. And then if you can take away the judgment and ask questions and get curious and be compassionate, that can be a really powerful combination.
Yeah, I think we do get caught up in our own shame, even if it's
Mhm.
just one too many cookies or one too many,
Yeah.
even if it's like healthy food that you
Mhm.
just maybe, oh, it's healthy. I'm gonna have too much of it. But we do get caught up in the shame of it and beating ourselves up. And I don't feel this way so much anymore, but I do remember what other people are thinking about me. I really used to care about that as much. And now I'm like, well, I still love everybody and want them to love me back, but it's not my energy doesn't depend on that anymore. But that's a process
Mhm.
to
It's
get
a
to that
total
point.
process. And it's not something that happens overnight because we live in such a society that labels food as good or bad or healthy or not healthy. And really, it's like what works best for you. And so I think when we take that judgment and those labels away, there's a little bit more freedom because you're able to realize, okay, so maybe kale is a really healthy food, but it makes me feel gross or it makes me feel
Mhm.
lethargic. And so maybe it's not the best for me, but because it's been judged as healthy, I felt like I had to have it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about body image just a little bit. I mean, I know I have friends that um they're talking about, oh, I'm going to diet or I need whatever. And I'm like, what? You look amazing. What do what is that? I mean, and I have people that just tell me, oh, you don't need to, but I'm just like, oh, you're just being nice.
I think this is something that affects more of like our generation. Like I don't see it as much in the youngers. But I feel like we've been conditioned and we've had all of these magazines and these images from a very young age of telling us what we should look like, what we need to look like. I mean, if you look at women from, I think Marilyn Monroe is a great example. Like by today's standards, she wouldn't be on the cover of a magazine because she's not thin enough. So I think it's the evolution of what we should look like or what is worthy of beauty or magazine or whatever has really changed over time. And I'm not sure it's for the best.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you are right because even look at old portraits of naked women and stuff laying around eating
Yeah.
grapes, and they're all, nice full figured ladies, and that
And
was
they're happy.
and they're happy, and that was beautiful. And yeah, Marilyn Monroe, gorgeous, definitely hourglass figure and all that. And then, yeah, I think we in this, what, maybe 60s, 70s, 80s, it turned into this get as skinny as you can and, be small. I don't know. That's a thing too. Just like, I don't want to take up too much space.
That's a very real thing. Like we've been taught from a young age that we need to shrink.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're right that younger generation, I mean, my own daughter and her friends, they don't look at it the same way.
Yeah.
They don't, it doesn't bother them. Like, I mean, I remember even not liking my feet because they were too big, but really they're not, just like, come on. Self-judging, it's got to go. So what do you do for these, your clients?
Yeah, so it's really like figuring out their relationship with food. Like, why are they turning to food? What are they really looking for? Because I think a lot of times Brenda will recognize, oh, I have a craving. I must be hungry. Well, you might be hungry, but is it a physical hunger or is it hunger for more connection, more social interaction? Maybe you need more alone time. Maybe you need more adventure. Like, what are you really craving? And satisfy the craving with that instead of just knowing that you're craving something and going for the cookies or the chips or whatever.
Right. And how many times do you find yourself at the board, just look, or at the refrigerator, just kind of looking, not really, not even really that hungry, but just it's a habit, these
Yeah.
habits. Yeah. So if you were to give our listeners just, two or three tips on, if they just kind of feeling that they're in a place of like the struggle or just, really want to have better, healthier patterns and mindset around their diet and don't want to have to think about it all the time anymore, right?
Because that's exhausting.
It is exhausting. Yeah. What would you recommend?
Yeah, I think what I mentioned earlier, replace judgment with curiosity and just start to maybe look at this from a different perspective of, okay, so if this isn't just about weight, maybe shift the question to what is my relationship like with food and get curious about that. I have a woman I worked with who hated cheese and crackers, but when she was stressed, she was craving cheese and crackers and she couldn't figure out why. Well, come to find out when she was younger and her family was always together and there was peace and joy, there was always cheese and crackers. So she was looking for that peace and joy in the cheese and crackers when she was stressed. So I think really kind of dissecting that and figure out like, okay, what is my relationship with food? Why do I go towards these foods? What memories do I have with them? What associations do I have? And just kind of getting curious and letting yourself have some time and space to journal or make a video or talk to a friend, but just kind of think on that instead of what diet can I do? How can I restrict? How can I withhold? What do I need to cut out? What do I need to do to fit into this? Like just view it as a relationship with food and get curious about it.
So cheese and crackers, oh my gosh, I can't believe that would be anyone's didn't like list. I mean, I can have a whole meal out of cheese and crackers.
Right?
That's my Friday night go-to, which
Yes.
I don't, in the right moderation, right? Is
Yes.
okay. All right.
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
of
So
course.
please go, keep going.
Yeah, I think the next thing is, I think we're in the season of life where we've had, a lot of things that we've been responsible for. We've probably had children that we've raised or we're raising. And so just know that like you matter and you're worth taking care of. And yes, there are a lot of things that you take care of around you, but don't forget to add yourself to that because you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not having that life of longevity and connection and beauty and peace that you really want. So make sure that you are putting yourself on your priority list too.
Hey lady, just wanted to take a moment and interrupt right now in the middle of the show to ask you to subscribe. Yes, press that button right now. This show is all about you, the midlife woman. Let's do this thing together, so join us. Subscribe now.
Well, let's not to get too, into diet at all, but do you have some recommendations as far as foods that will help you feel better, live longer, just a more healthy life? Because, mindset and stuff is great, but if you're eating crap, then you're not going to feel that great.
Totally, totally. So I'm a big proponent of eating food in its most natural form. So our bodies were designed this way. They were designed to handle certain things and not handle certain things. And so I think you can't go wrong with, the way nature intended with like whole foods. So your fruits, vegetables, nuts, grass-fed meat, those are great. But I also know that's not entirely realistic because we do have lives and we have things going on. So just look for foods where there's minimal ingredients on the label. I think a lot of us have been trained to look at the numbers, but I think looking at the ingredients is just as, if not more important. So you understand what you're putting in your body, how it's affecting you. So, foods with fewer ingredients are a healthier bet because you're not getting the preservatives, the additives, the thing that our bodies don't recognize as food. So I think that's a great baseline. And then I think too, just again, approach it with curiosity. How do foods make you feel? There are certain foods that some people can tolerate really well and they don't affect them. And then there are foods that don't affect people the same way. And so I think this one size fits all mentality of food and diet has also done us a disservice because we don't know how to listen to our bodies. But if we can eat something and then give space and just say, okay, I ate that, I feel energized or I feel lethargic, you're going to have a better idea of what your body needs and what it's telling you it needs because you're your own best health expert.
Right. Do any of your clients ever say, gosh, all that extra organic and stuff is so expensive. The grass-fed is
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
It totally is. And I say do the best with what you can because you can eat the healthiest meal on the planet, but if you're eating it under stress, it's totally negating it. So if the finances is stressing you out, you're not doing any good by eating organic. So do the best you can with what you have. Clean things well. I love a good veggie spray to spray like the fruits and vegetables and the produce off. And I think just do your best.
Yeah.
And that's really all we can do. It's not worth the stress that negates the health.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. This eating in a stressed state. I have a friend who talks about if you just had a sandwich and then were chased by a bear,
Yep.
you would not digest that very well, and it probably would just pack on because your body is using its energy elsewhere. And our lives are much like running from a bear sometimes. What do you have to share about that?
Yeah, I think stress, I don't think you can negate stress. It's a part of life. I don't think we were designed to handle all this technology and all these things that are constantly coming at us because that can be stressful to feel like you're always needing to be on. So I think identifying what your stress triggers are and working through them can be really powerful. I love things like deep breathing. The 5-5-7 breath is really powerful. Where you breathe in for 5 seconds, you hold the breath for 5 seconds, you release for 7 seconds. It calms body and brain down. That's powerful. Essential oils help some people. Tapping can be really powerful, where you just do some gentle taps on pressure points and maybe say something to calm yourself down. That can also bring the body into a state of calmness. So I think having some tools to handle the stress is really powerful because I know when I was stressed and overwhelmed, that's when the sugar would call my name because I didn't know how to handle those feelings and kind of calm my body down. But those 3 things I just mentioned, powerful.
Right. And I think that breathing exercise in particular, you could, before you sit down to eat, take a minute for yourself to become present with the food in front of you and not just have it go down before you like, what happened?
Where did it go?
Where did it go? But take that 5-5-7 is the one that you said. Yeah, the breathe in for 5, hold for 5, out for 7, and do that, 3 or 4 times. Is there a magic number that you recommend?
I mean, until your body calms down, you can do it in 2 minutes, like,
Yeah. Squeeze it in.
yes. It's great in the checkout lane at the grocery when somebody ahead of you is in like the express lane and they have more than the number and you feel your blood pressure rising. Great time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Okay, well, that's all really great information. I guess I did have couple more questions for you. How do our listeners find you? And maybe share just a little bit more about your specialty and who you like to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is free, the number 2, the letter B, coaching.com. And I love to help teen girls and women find freedom from the struggle with food. So that's my jam.
Okay, I love it. I love it. And share with us all, Melissa, how do you tribe?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this question, and I feel like for me, based on the season of life, because we're in different seasons and they change and evolve, but right now, because my kids are in school and I'm really involved there, I tribe with the moms at school. But I've also noticed that it's really important for me to tribe with them outside of school, outside of the bleachers, outside of like that environment. So like yesterday, I went on a hike with one. I'm having coffee with one tomorrow, like to create that connection, that responsibility, not responsibility, but relationship is really how I tribe.
Okay, hey, you're totally talking my language. That's something I totally share, is that you've got to take your mom friends to another location to build that relationship beyond what it is there at the ballpark or at the school or whatever, because when the school and the ballpark activities go away, so will those friends. If there's any friends out there that you really kind of are jiving with, and here's the thing, I'm speaking from experience because I lived that life and I was there, I was all in. And when the middle school, I call them the middle school moms, the friendlies is what I call it in my book, is that we had great times together and I felt like I was building these great friendships. But when all the kids went their separate ways, so did the moms, and I was like, oh, what happened? Because we hadn't created anything for ourselves. So good for you. Excellent advice. I so appreciate that. I'm so happy that you were here today. Any closing thought, just your, core message?
Yeah, I want people to know they can be free from the struggle with food because I think we struggle so much. It's like, how much do I eat? When do I eat? What do I eat? And we've got the diet industry giving us this one size fits all protocol. And, you might try something, Brenda, and it works really great for you. And you share about it on social. And then I try it and I don't get the same results. And then I feel like a failure. And that's just not how it works. Like, you can be free from all of that because I know the exhaustion mentally and physically and emotionally that it takes up. So you don't have to struggle anymore.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. And thank you, listeners, for being here. So with all you listeners and Melissa and I, when 3 or more gather, we are a tribe. Have a good one, everybody.